All right, so let's get started. So this is the Project 2 webinar. So any questions you have, put them in the chat window. I am going to just go out and share my desktop. So the chat window will appear at the top up here now. You can leave it down there in the corner for you in case you have questions. But this project for week 4, as we enter week 4, is probably one of my favorites because it is one of the hardest. And it's technically one of the easiest. I mean, we're going to use SMORE to create something called a spotlight on strategies. And it's difficult or challenging because it really gets us to focus on what are we actually doing intentionally with media, with digital, with an image, with the video, with an interactive, with a virtual lab, whatever it might be. That's the hard part. So using SMORE to actually publish this, I think it's just a really fun, easy, free tool for students to ultimately publish content. But the challenge behind this is really just what is the instructional strategy. So in the course description here, Project 2, Spotlight on Strategies, the purpose is to really tap into your creating mind. And this is, as we build from the discipline mind to the synthesizing mind to kind of applying what we know about the simple power of an image, the power of a short video segment, of digital in general, to apply that to create something new that you can use in your classroom and that ultimately your colleagues can use as well. So it is about instructional strategies. That is ultimately the challenge and the difficult part. I can't underscore that enough. Like, that'll be the part that you wrestle with, and then actually putting it together is as simple as typing in a Word document to some extent. So requirements, a spotlight on strategies, and I'll jump out and show a couple examples because that's that'll help it kind of gel in terms of what we're talking about. But it's going to have a title, the background, which is the focus of your strategy, as supported by research. And the research can be your own personal research. You can go and do some general research on instructional strategies. A lot of folks will use, and I posted some samples in the course from previous classes. You can use an instructional strategy like a KWL chart and build a kind of a digital version or your own adaptation of that. So you can beg, borrow, and steal from instructional strategies that are proven, something creative and new that you've come up with on your own, or a hybrid between them. So the background will give what is the focus of your strategy, like why is this important, and then an example describing how it works. And then the challenge is really inviting other educators to implement it. And I'll show you some samples here. And that's for the pure fact that we're going to publish these on SMORE, and we're going to share them out broadly. So when people come across your strategy, which will happen because we publish every Monday a new Spotlight on Strategies with the Discovery Educator Network, and I always share the ones that we create in class, and then we ask for permission, and then we publish some of them. So the challenge is really, inviting others to participate. So that's not a very difficult one. Don't overthink that. If you're watching the archive as well, don't overthink it. Some of the technical stuff, at least 2 hyperlinks to external websites or link to a video, we'll model that. At least 2 images, and then your credits and citations. But the core of it really is, what's the instructional strategy? Why are you using a video segment or an image or an audio file or whatever the digital resource might be? Like, why are you using it, and what are the benefits, and what's a creative strategy around that? That's the challenge. That's the hard part. So really, when you think about this, it's the background and the example are really that's the meat of it. The rest of it will be pretty straightforward. And then ultimately, it's your reflection. So you'll post a reflection on your blog, similar to what you did for Project 1, that addresses these 2 questions. What instructional goal/challenge does your Spotlight on Strategies address? Is it activating prior knowledge? Is it a review strategy? Is it a strategy specific for ELL students? What goal, what challenge does it address? And then what additional value does bringing digital media into your strategy? Like, what's the extra value of using digital media to help students understand, comprehend, that concept or topic. So you'll have your blog post reflection as well. Just to make sure everybody sees it, I did post a few sample projects from a previous course. So here's one, a s'more KWL. So at the end of the day, this is what you'll link and or embed to your blog. So when you submit your project, project 2, just like the other projects, you'll submit it directly to your blog. And s'more is just a nice, simple, online template, online canvas where you can bring in text, images, links, videos, etc. But this is the kind of the end product, and it's this one is a KWL. So the background on why an interactive KWL, they did a little bit slightly different. What's different about this approach, and then she really went into how does it actually work, how does it look, what's the sample. And then she had some additional resources, and then her challenge was, check out for more resources, but then follow the class as we go forward. So that's kind of the way she approached the challenge. So there are some samples within the course that I would encourage everybody to take a look at. So the gist of it is really, what are you going to do around this strategy? So one of the best places to start, and this is kind of where all of this SOS stuff came from, is every Monday we post a simple strategy on our Discovery Educator Network blog around using digital media. And we started this a couple years ago, and it took off because teachers really just found that it's super practical. So if you go to the Discovery Educator Network blog, so blog.discoveryeducation.com, you should have it linked in the course as well, and then click on SOS. And you'll see, I don't know how many are up here now, 75 or 100 of them are on here. And you can just kind of scroll through and see the different SOS strategies. All right, so there's a PDF version, and then there's also just the blog version. But this really gets to kind of the format. So what's the background? For this one, filling the silence. Instead of being asked to solve a problem, this strategy has students creating a story related to a video segment played without sound. So a very simple instructional strategy, getting the students to create and write and think creatively, and using a video segment as that hook, and doing something as simple as play that short 2-minute video segment without the sound on and have the students create a story. So there's an example provided, and then ultimately the challenge. Find a video segment that relates to a current unit of study. Try this out for yourself. Let us know about it. So the format, you'll see there are tons and tons of these on the SOS blog or the SOS tag on our Discovery Educator Network blog. So starting point, I would go there and just look through a few of them and see, one that resonates, kind of check out the format. But there are a ton of them, and we're actually working on putting them. These are on the public-facing blog. We're trying to package them and put them into the Discovery Education service so that people can actually search for them, and they're tagged according to the Common Core standards and the standards that they address. So that's something, as an aside, that's coming. But there are tons of them here. So, paper chat, rhyme sign reminds me of. So I would say start here and explore. This is one actually, just to kind of point it out. So XO, let's go. This is actually a spotlight on strategy that we reposted. But it was from Tara Lee Graton, who was in the 508 course about a year ago. She just graduated from the IM program. And she created this for the course, and then it was really, really well done, and it just made sense to kind of repackage it and publish it so that more people could benefit from it. So ultimately, what's the instructional strategy, and how are you going to use digital media, a video, an image, an audio file, an exploration, an interactive glossary term, whatever it might be? How does that enhance the strategy itself? All right, provide the background on it. Great place to start. Again, just do some research on just typical traditional instructional strategies, or think of something that you do that every day for the past 10 years you've worked on, and you're like, oh, I always do this particular bell ringer. Is there a way that you could use digital media to enhance that experience. Give the background, give an example, and then give your challenge. All right, and then, you know, as part of your example, you'll have your video or your images or links to other sites, whatever the case might be. So just to kind of model one, and I'll show you how easy S'more is to use. The challenge, again, is like, what is the strategy and why on earth are you using the digital content? There is one on here, sorry for the scroll, but you can see how many of these are here. There's one that I created that was just kind of coincidental. I was reading some stuff on ELL and struggling readers, and it was the Cummins quadrants, which some of you may have remember from other courses. But basically, it was the whole idea of providing students multiple entry points into a discussion. So I came up with this thing called AEIOU that my colleague Janita then kind of wrote up for me and reposted. And I'll use this as the example to show you how S'more works. But the AEIOU one is a strategy that really gets at providing access to a conversation at multiple entry points. So the background references the Jim Cummins research, and then the example is, watch this video segment. This happens to be a Bill Nye one. And as they watch it, the whole idea is, instead of just saying, here's a question I want everybody to think about, give them multiple entry points into the conversation. So if they weren't there yesterday, and they weren't there for the introduction to the concept, they might not be willing to raise their hand. They might not have that background knowledge. So give them different ways. A is an adjective, something that they see in that video segment, that, an adjective that they see. E is an emotion. I is something they find interesting. O is something that they say, oh, I didn't know that, caught my attention. Or U is as in a question. So that as you show this short little 2-minute video segment, you can go around and say AEIOU, somebody give me an adjective, somebody give me an emotion, and everybody can participate. So it's a very grounded, research-based, simple strategy that's actually a lot of fun. So here's what you have to do for the project. And I'm belaboring the point of coming up with the instructional piece is the focus of this. That should be the core of your reflection. That should be the hard part. That's why the second project is the hardest, because it's easier said than done to come up with an instructional strategy. Once you have it, though, putting it together is pretty easy. So we're going to use S'more. And S'more is basically a free online flyer creation tool. And once you sign up, you'll come to a page that looks like this and say start a new flyer. And I'm going to just say let's start from blank. You can use a template if you like. All right, and I'm just going to say skip that for a second. And it'll give you this kind of blank template, and I'm going to click on my S'more flyer and instead say AEIOU, Spotlight on Strategies as the subtitle, and say done. So it is super intuitive, and you can add text, links, images, etc., and customize it however you see fit. So I'll put my title. Maybe I'll actually say Spotlight on Strategies by Lance. We'll say done. Beautiful. All right. So what's the next thing that I need? So if I go into my project requirements, into project 2. All right, so I have a title. Check. Got that. Background. The focus of my strategy is supported by the research. Well, I'm going to just borrow this background information from the one that we already created. And this really just talks about Jim Cummins' research and where this AEIOU strategy really ultimately came from, right? And I can say, this is my background. Type my content there and say done. So there we go. Just as simple as that. Beautiful. All right, what do I want to do next? Well, next we have the example. So how does this work? All right, I'm going to just say, I'll model this one real quick. So let's bring in let's bring in a text box. So I can just click down here. What are the things you want to add? Text, a picture, embed a link. I'm just going to say, give me a text box. And we'll say, this is going to be my example. So first, show a short video segment. All right. So what short video segment can I get? Well, I'm just going to go out to Discovery real quick, and I'll find a short video segment. So wherever you want to pull them from, what would we use as an example here? We'll say I'll just do a North America search. I love that series. All right, so when I go and do my North America search, 2,400 results, all sorts of media types. So I could use an animation, but I want to use this one particularly. This AEIOU works really well with video segments. So we're going to show a short video segment. So I'll narrow it down. We're going to show a short video segment and then have the students, contribute their adjectives, their emotions, things that interested them. So I'll just pick this glaciers one. All right, and I'm going to say we'll take that. So there's my video segment, and if I click that little drop down, so in Discovery, if you click the little drop down, so there's the plus, and then there's the little drop down and say share, we can just get a link. All right, there's links that, for Facebook, Twitter, email, Edmodo, etc. But if I just take that link and copy it, I can go back to S'more, and then I can just insert my link by using the little chain link icon, just like you do for your blogs. Voila. All right. Then ask the students to contribute an adjective, blah, blah, blah. So we can just, this is where we're going to give the specific example of what is the strategy and what do the students do. Give a very specific example just to model it is basically the idea. So we can insert links in there. The other thing that you could do if you want, you could say embed a link. That's another option instead of just a text box. All right, you can embed a link, which would look like that. Either or, there's different options for embedding those links when you do it. But that is essentially how S'more works. Is text, images, links. If you want to bring in video, so I brought in my video from Discovery by using a link. You can bring in video. Currently, YouTube, Vimeo, and Vidler are supported. So if you paste just a link to like a YouTube video, it'll go right in there. If you have a video from somewhere else, just use the URL and do what I showed you there in terms of inserting your link or embedding your link. In terms of bringing a picture in, let's see if I can just find. So I have video segments. Let me actually just say, filter just the images for me. And why don't we take this one? I'll download the medium. Call it NA. Perfect. So I just downloaded that image, and I go back to S'more and say, actually, you know what I could do? I could say, well, show me a different option. So when I put a text box in, if I hit these little scroll overs, that's just text. That's a picture with text on the picture on the left, picture on the right. I'm going to just say, let's add in voila. So there we go. So I can bring an image in. All right, and you kind of get the point. All of these things then can be just shuffled around. So if I want to bring the background down here, or put it back up, it's all just drag and drop. So when we go back to kind of the project requirements, you'll have your title, your background, an example that describes how it works. Look at the different ones on the blog and the samples. A challenge, inviting everybody else to participate or implement it or try it out. And then some of the technical stuff. Have at least 2 hyperlinks, which shouldn't be very difficult. Put some images in so that it makes it visually appealing, gives could be actually part of your strategy. A lot of instructional strategies for like these SOS are around just the simple use of an image. And then put your credits and citations. So your credits and citations, could go just in a text box at the very bottom. All right, but that is how easy it is to use S'more. You can get creative and fancy and go over and change the look and feel. We'll say handwritten. You can change the background, the colors, the fonts, etc. All right, and it's saving it as you're going through. But once you're done editing, just click Done Editing. And ultimately, when you say Done Editing, you can always go back into your account and update it if you have a typo, if you want to switch things around. All right, but once you say Done Editing, then it's going to give you all sorts of ways to share it out. So share with email, Facebook, Twitter. What I would suggest for submitting it for the project is embed it so you can get the embed code, which is right here. So that iframe, if you paste that into your blog, into the HTML part, you can embed it. If you need help with that, let me know. Or you can just simply, and this is what most people do, just take the link. So if I actually copy that link right now, and put it into the chat window, you can actually go and click on it, and you'll see my AEIOU S'more that I've started, my SOS that I've started that's not completely done. All right, but I do have video segment and image, a little bit of my background. But that's it. The challenge with this one really is something like this AEIOU. It's simple, but like, where does it come from, and how is it rooted in, in research, personal research and/or formal research, combination thereof. And then how does digital content actually enhance that experience? All right, not necessarily supplement or supplant, but enhance it. So that's it. SOS project. It is one of the most fun. I think it's the hardest because you really have to think about the strategy. But in terms of putting it together, people tend to really like S'more because it's just super easy to use. It makes a really great product, and then ultimately, within a few minutes here, I have something that's pretty close. Looks nice. It's got pictures and laid out nicely because it does all that for you, and then I can share it with the world. So that is it. I'll see if there are any questions in the chat window. Again, great place to start. Go to the Den blogs, click on SOS, and just look at a few of them. And some of them might be more elementary or might be more secondary, but just to give you an idea as to, what these spotlight and strategies are all about and the format, and just get the creative juices flowing. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my desktop, and let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. But I'm actually going to stop the recording now because I think that hopefully will give everybody a good sense.